I think you must know that these two weavers didn't even know how to weave, but they were doing their best to pretend to do it. However, we have to admit that they were very good at tricking people, and they had tricked kings, queens, princesses all over the world. And now they were even tricking an emperor. The days passed, and the emperor was growing curious to see his new clothes. Well, I'm sure that I will be able to see the clothes, but I have to make sure that they work. I will send my prime minister. He's a very clever man, so no doubt he'll be able to see the clothes and he can tell me all about them. So the prime minister was summoned and was sent to supervise the work. But I think you can imagine his shock when he entered the room where the two weavers were working and he couldn't see anything. What does this mean? Does this mean I'm stupid? If the emperors find out that I can't see the clothes, he'll want me to resign. I have to pretend as best as I can. And with this thought in mind, he entered the room, and the two weavers looked very happy to see him. Prime Minister, what an honor to have you here with us. Please come, said the first weaver. What do you think of our clothes? He pointed at something that the Prime Minister couldn't see, and that actually wasn't there. It's the best I've ever seen, lied the Prime Minister. But now I've got to go, sorry, I've got work to do. Better go now, before they ask me questions I cannot answer. But the second weaver stopped him. Prime Minister, you cannot go away without touching the cloth. He held out something in his hands. The Prime Minister touched where he thought the cloth would have to be. Wonderful, wonderful, he said, and then he left the room. The two weavers started laughing because their plan was working. The days passed, and the emperor was growing always more restless to see his new clothes. But he told himself that he had to wait. He sent all of his advisors, those he knew that were intelligent, and those he actually suspected were a bit stupid. All of them came back with the same tale. His new clothes were wonderful and he would be very happy with them. And so the emperor was growing always more sure about himself, because if even his most stupid advisors could see the clothes, so would he when the day came. And finally, the day came. The two weavers announced that the clothes were ready, and the emperor decided to organize a parade to show his new wonderful clothes to the population. Well, you have to imagine his shock when he entered the room where the two weavers were waiting for him with empty hangers, and he couldn't see the clothes. What does this mean? Even my most stupid advisors could see the clothes. Does this mean that I'm not fit to be the emperor? If so, nobody should ever find out. He thought in desperation, but outside he tried to look as a normal, confident emperor. Your Majesty, said the first weaver, please let me show you your new trousers and your new jacket. What do you think of them? They're the best I've ever seen, lied the emperor, but can I put them on? Of course, Your Majesty, said the second weaver, but before you try them, you must know that our clothes are not only magical, but they are also as light as air. Well, at least this is the reason why I can't even feel them, thought the emperor while looking at himself in the mirror. How do I look? Your Majesty, said the two weavers, you look wonderful. And so the emperor decided to go on with his idea of the parade. And poor him, having been tricked by the two weavers, he didn't know that he was wearing only his underpants. In the meantime, the tale of the parade had spread in the realm, and everybody had come to look at the emperor's new clothes and to put themselves to the test. Were they stupid or were they intelligent? When the emperor appeared, they all saw that he wasn't wearing a thing. but they were all far from admitting it to each other. If I say that I can't see the clothes, nobody will want me to teach their kids, thought the school teacher. If I say that I can't see the clothes, nobody will want me to take care of their money, thought the banker. If I say that I can't see the clothes, nobody will want me to build their houses, thought the banker. So they all clapped and cheered and told the emperor how beautiful he looked in his new clothes. Your Majesty, you look gorgeous. Your Majesty, your clothes are wonderful. Your Majesty, your clothes are absolutely fit for an emperor. Until one child, hearing all these nice things about the emperor's new clothes, decided he wanted to see them for himself. So he tried to make his way in the crowd until he reached the first row. He looked at the emperor and said, "But the emperor isn't wearing a thing." And he tried to keep his laughter back, but the emperor was wearing only his underpants. And hearing him laughing, the crowd couldn't hold it anymore, and they all started laughing with him. And hearing them laughing, the emperor understood that he had been tricked by the two weavers. He tried to make his way back to the palace with his head held up high, trying to look as proud as ever. But in reality, he was blushing. Well, I think I've been taught a lesson, he thought. Never say that you understand something when you don't. And this is my story. Thank you.
That's very, very good. Thank you very much. Can I ask you how? So English would be your second language?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you speak other languages?
I do. I speak German, Russian, and I'm learning French. Well,
right. So that's Italian?
Yeah.
Yeah. English, German, and Russian, and you're learning French?
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to be on about 100,000 euros a year soon, translating things from one thing to another. So absolutely well done. Right. So we're going to Alan next, and then from Alan, we're going to Mike. Okay. Now I have a Sarah and a Manulia that I think you're listening, but I can't see you and you're muted. If you want to do something, you need to get in touch with me so I can arrange to see what's going to happen. Okay. So suddenly there's somebody there. Hello. Right.
Hello. I'm not doing anything. Not yet. Not yet. Not tonight.
Right. So where are you from, Manuela?
Well, actually, I'm a Geordie lass. I'm from up north, but I live in Italy.
Right. So we're here in 2 weeks' time. Would you care to come back in 2 weeks and have a go at something?
Okay, I'll see my schedule.
Okay. Now this is through John Rowe and the World Storytelling Cafe, and they will give you £10,000.
I'll talk to my coach, David Heathfield.
It's okay, but I'm going to have to borrow the money off Mike because he said he'd lend it to me.
Anyway, so if you care to come back, I'll give you plenty of time, and we can put you on early if you're nervous or anything like that. So you'd be very welcome to come back in a couple of weeks' time. Okay.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, that's not a problem at all. Right. We were at Alan, so sorry for the delay. You were just about to launch off and you get stopped. It's always difficult. So, okay, if you care to come piling in, mate, we're waiting.
All right. I'm going to tell a wee fairy story from the Glens of Antrim. A fairy story which I actually have the scars to prove it, but in the chat box, I just have to do a bit of pre-teaching. We have two words, just so everybody knows. A seach. For those who don't speak Irish, is a ditch at the side of a road or in a forest. As my grandmother used to say, it is spelled S-H-U-Ech. But I had to ask back home last night how to spell that. And a sciac is a white thorn bush, which is a fairy tree, which some of you may know is one of the most dangerous trees to ever be around.
Yeah, I know the second one, but not the first.
So I'm going to tell a true story about my experience with the fairies in the Glens of Antrim. But it actually starts off when I was actually learning to walk. So probably about 1989. We're in our little house. We had a hill where the garden was. And since my family grew plenty of plants and vegetables and fruit, we had a little square area which my mother used for a rose garden. Now, these events have been told to me about 300 times, so I think I imagined them, but obviously I have no recommendation of being a little toddler. But what I used to do when I was learning to walk was I used to love plodding down the little hill to the rose garden. And because I was a lazy little bugger, I hated plodding back up again because I don't like hills. But anyway, so one day, apparently when I was still learning to walk, I would waddle my way down. I was a fat kid. I would waddle my way down the hill toward near the rose bush. But one day I keeled over and fell into the roses. Now my face, my arms, my legs, my hands, covered in thorns, covered in branches, covered in blood. So I was rushed very, very quickly to the nearest hospital. When I got to the nearest hospital, apparently, they told my parents that there was a car crash. So the short-staffed hospital were obviously prioritizing a car crash over some idiot fat kid who had fallen into a bunch of roses. So they decided if there's nothing wrong with him, bring him back in 3 days just in case anything happens. I never went back. But what I did have was a thorn stuck in my neck right there, which is that red scar right behind my cheekbone. Anyway, fast forward till I was about 8 or 9. We grew up around a forest near Slemish in County Antrim. And I would walk the dogs through the forest and we would fish in the reservoir with my grandparents. And one day I was walking the dogs, it must have been late afternoon, one summer afternoon. And the dogs decided to head off to the right, off the beaten track through the forest. And I thought, why not? Something a wee bit different. I'd never walked that way before, but sure, can't be that bad. Famous last words. So I followed the dogs. They ran on. And then without even realizing, because the land was so bumpy, it was in a forest, it was in the trees, I fell down a shock. Covered in mud, wet, dirty bogland, absolutely pigging. What I hadn't realized was, beside the shock, there was a skiag, a white thorn bush. There was a fairy tree right by where I fell. So, clumsy wee me, getting up, covered in mud, and since it knocked over the fairy tree, they came out and they caught me. And I knew I was in a lot of trouble because of how dangerous the fairies can be in Ireland. So they lifted me up and carried me further into the forest to their world, which when I started looking around me wasn't too dissimilar from ours. It was a lot cleaner and neater than I'd be used to, although I am a culchie from County Antrim. It was kind of quite similar to when you put on your glasses and you can sort of see double of the world. It looked a little bit off, but you weren't quite sure what or why. So they carried me further into this group of them. And I was looking around, I could see there was groups of them putting on feasts. There was groups over here, they were getting out their fiddles and bowrons. Jesus, it looked like it was going to be some fun tonight. Maybe not for me anyway, but definitely for them. Went on a wee bit further and there was this table in a clearing in the forest. They were putting out the best lamb, the best pork, a bit of champ, all these colourful vegetables and pastries of food. Jesus, they were in for some meal tonight. I don't know what I was in for, but they were in for a good bit of crack anyway. So what they started doing was they started to clean me up and they started to feed me. Because if I knew in my head that if they cleaned me up and fed me and kept me there when the sun went down, I was in trouble. I was never going to be able to come out of their world and go back to my own. So the sun went down. I could see the sun heading down over the Antrim Hills. And I thought, oh, Jesus, I've had it here. They were cleaning me up. I was in perfect nick again. And all of a sudden, it disappeared. I landed back in the shuk, looking around me. I was clean as a whistle. The two dogs came over to me again, pegging filthy. They were as confused as I was, and they were very hungry by this stage. I was patting myself down. Why did the fairies not take me there? What's going on? Anyway, as confused as I was, I started my walk home anyway. So I got in home. Me ma was bouncing around the walls. Where were you? Where were you out this time of night? was like, oh Jesus, man! I took the dogs to the forest, fell down a shock, and the fairies took me and they tried to clean me. My ma grabs me, she's pulling my hair, she's pulling my glasses off, she's pulling my cheeks. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? She was poking and prodding me to see if I was a shapeshifter, to see if the fairies had traded me for one of their own, sent them to my world and me stuck in theirs. I was like, what's going on? What are you doing? Anyway, my dad comes over, he grabs my face, he points to my neck. That hurt you, son? I go, aye, stop poking me. And he goes, aye, that's that thorn still in your neck from when you fell in with the roses. That's why they didn't take you. You're imperfect. You're immune to the fairies from now on. That's why they didn't take you. You're perfectly safe now. But don't be doing that again. And that was my experience with the fairies down a shock.
Great. Thank you very much. Right, so I'm going to go to Mike Faculty, which I think is the last one, unless there's somebody around. I've got a Sarah who is listening but is not speaking to me, and unless this will be the last one, unless John, you want to do something, which you're probably going to shake your head, are you? So, Mike, we're going to ask you to be the last, but very much not the least.
Absolutely. Thank you for that story, Alan. You've inspired me to tell one my mother used to tell. Probably last heard it from her 50 odd years ago. But here it is. It's about an old woman who had problems with the fairies. Jack and his old mother, they travelled. Jack built and mended boots and shoes. He was more of a cobbler than a booter. And his mother sold bits and pieces and did bits of sewing. And so she carried a basket with her, and she also told fortunes. And they'd had a bad day. They hadn't come across anywhere that they could actually sell any of their goods or do any of their trades. And they were camping just beside a stream. And they had a hard camp, a cold camp, no food. And all they had to drink was the water of the stream. And suddenly Jack's mum woke him up and said, Jack, look, I can see a light up in the Whitnam clumps. There's lights up there. And Jack said, no, there can't be lights because there's no houses around here. Otherwise we might have had a chance to do some work. And she, oh, well, I can see the lights. And Jack said, well, it must be the moon through the trees. And his mum said, I know what moonlight looks like, and that's not moonlight. That's lights coming through the trees. Just, it's not, Mum. Settle down. Yeah, we've got a hard night, but let's get some sleep. We'll be better tomorrow. And she just couldn't settle. And she woke him up again. Said, look, Jack, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to see if anyone wants their fortune told, if they want some of my bits and pieces of sewing and things, some ribbons. He said, there's nothing there. It's just, anyway, the long and the short of it is Jack went back to sleep and his mum plodded up the hill. I think this hill's probably worse than yours, Alan, but it was a steep hill up Whitnam to Whitnam Clumps. Probably people may know it. And she got up the hill and she's gotten up to the clumps, and the clumps are all these bodger trees at the top. And just before the clumps, she came to a great house, a wonderful mansion of a house. And she thought, I wonder we didn't know that was there. But she walked around to the back because, you know, she was that kind of a woman. She wasn't going to go to the front door. And she knocked at the back door, and a little slip of a serving maid came to the door. She said, oh, bless you, I just wondered, would anyone be interested in me coming and telling a fortune? Or, you know, I can do a bit of sewing, or I've got pins and needles and sewing threads and ribbons. And the maid said, can you wait there? And closed the door on her. And she went away and came back with an old bent over man, all dressed in really old fashioned clothes, a waistcoat and breeches. And he was like the butler. And he said to the old woman, please come in, come to the hall and the master will see you. But please don't bring in any of your pins and your needles. We don't want any of that stuff, but by all means, bring in your ribbons and your bows and the threads. And I think that some of the ladies would love to have their fortunes told. So she followed him down into the main hall, and there was a great fire burning. There were all these wonderful people, all dressed very old-fashioned, gentlemen and ladies, and seated on a chair that was almost like a throne was the master. Great big man, dark hair, and a strong black beard, and dressed all in green. And he said, "What do you want with us, my good woman?" And she says, "Sir, I want to tell some fortunes, sell some bits and pieces. I'm camping with my son down the other side of the stream, and we've got a cold, hard camp tonight. We've got no fire, we've got no food. All we've got to drink is water." He said, "Well, I tell you what, you tell some fortunes, and I promise you we'll give you a good basket of food to take back to your son, and perhaps a nice bottle of wine." And she, "Oh, thank you, sir." And so she goes over and she deals with the young ladies telling some fortunes, and some of the guys want their fortunes told too, and some people want to buy ribbons. And the master calls her back over and says, "Thank you for coming to see us. Now, have a glass of wine with me." And he pours her, actually himself, he pours her a glass of wine. And she said, "Thank you, sir. I'll take this with the blessing of our good Lord." The place goes silent. You could have heard one of her pins drop. And the master said, "We don't talk about him in here." And she said, "Well, I can't have a drink without a blessing." And he said, "You'll have a drink without a blessing, and you'll have a drink with me, or it will be the worse for you." And she, "I'm sorry, but I can't have a drink without I bless it. That would be awful." And he said, "Well, you can stay with us a few years and we'll see how you get on and how thirsty you get and whether you'll take a drink without a blessing." She said, "But you promised me a basket of food to take down to my boy." She said, "Are you going to break your word? Are you not a man of your word?" And the master, really angry, he said, "No, I do not break my word." Then he said to the butler, "Take her to the kitchen and give her some food and a bottle of our worst wine. I promised her wine as well, and she can go down the hill and she can go to the other place for all I care." And then he turned to her and he said, "Mark my words, you go down that hill, but if you look back at my hall, whatever you do, don't do that, or we will take you with us." And she said, "Well, bless you." Well, she didn't like much. And she left the hall. She started on down the hill. And suddenly just behind her, she could hear a lamb bleating. And she just carried on walking and said, "Bless you, my lamb." And she carried on. And then she suddenly saw a big bull mastiff of a dog come running up the hill at her. And she just said, "Bless you, dog." It disappeared. And then she heard her son, Jack, saying behind her, and he was saying, "Mother, what have you got there? What have you got?" And she said, "Oh, bless you, Jack. I'll be back in the camp soon. You'll have a look then." And she got all the way down to the hill, and she was just getting to the stream and about to step across when her shawl caught on a thorn, on one of those white thorn bushes you were talking about. Was it a sheach? And she turned to pull the thorn off. And then the next morning, Jack couldn't find his mum. And he came looking for her. And he came over the stream, and there he saw a basket of food on the floor, just in front of this rock. He said, "You know, if you didn't know it was made of stone, that rock didn't half look like my mum." Don't mess with the fairies.
Thanks ever so much, Mike. That was lovely. Thank you very, very much. Right. Well, I'm going to call it tonight. I think it's been a lovely having you all here. We're here in a fortnight's time. We're doing exactly the same again. So please come along and do something for yourselves. Just before you all go, if Alan and Andrew could just stay for 2 minutes when everybody else is gone, I just want to have a quick chat with you before we finish. Okay.
And if I can give out a couple of parish notices.
Go on.
From the site. We've got a fair amount of stuff on for National Storytelling Week, which is UK. Starting on the Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing this with David Heathfield. We've got storytellers from Southeast Asia, Australasia, and people from a different time zone, so they can get into. So they'll get it. Then on Sunday, because I'm reading so much. Oh, it's not work, you know, it's terrible. We're just having to Zoom everywhere. I think there's some, you know, there's loads of people that have kept some brilliant stuff going on Zoom. You know, Maria down in Arawas and all sorts of people. So we're having a little discussion, having a panel of people that have put stuff and seen us through, and I want to celebrate their work on Sunday. So this time next Sunday will be a celebration of those people that have kept it all going through this time.
Yeah.
So we'd love to see you, and of course, come back to us for the end of National Storytelling Week, which is the 7th. And Michael and I will see you then.
We will
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you very much. And Manuela, is that how you pronounce your name? I'll see you in a fortnight's time if you come up. Yes, come on. Stop being shy. Stop hiding your light under a book. Manuela.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming. You've been brilliant. Marvellous stories, great poems. Been a fantastic night. Thank you, Mike, for looking after us.
Not a problem at all. And if Alan and Andrew could just wait for 2 minutes, okay?
Does anyone want to hear a joke?
Who's
Yeah.
We'll have a joke to finish.
Okay. What happened when Sir Isaac Newton broke the law?
Don't know.
Apple fell on his head.
No, he went to prison.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a great night. Bye.
Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye,
Thank you.
bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, wait.
And Ali, don't close down quite yet because Mike wants to have a word with a couple of
You
people.
did say right. We'll start with you, Andrew. Right, just on a techie spatial thing, you are very close to get what's called getting a halo. Now, your personal space isn't set up. The light is just behind your ear, and if your head moved over a bit, the light would be behind your head, and it's what's called getting a halo. You need to get your space sorted out. As you come into one of these, you're sat here for an hour or so, so you're hunched over and looking down. You need your device to be a bit higher. You need to be in a comfortable chair, and you need to sort your light out. So if you get a halo, it's deadly. No one can see your face or what you're doing. All it is you've got a Princess Diana sitting behind the back of your head. Okay, so just take 2 minutes before you start, just to get your little space sorted out so you're comfortable and you know your lighting's right. Okay, it's just a technical thing you need to do. Alan, your device is too low. You need to pick your device up so it's level with your eyes.
Right. Okay.
Just bring it up now in front of you. Whatever you're looking at. What are you looking at? You've got a computer.
Laptop. Yeah.
Laptop. Get it up. And so you've got your shoulders back and it's up. You get a couple of big books.
Yeah.
Because you're hunched over like this and you're just uncomfortable. You see John, he's got a really comfortable chair and he's got his background sorted out.
I put mine, I've got a footstool which I put on top of the table and it comes to exactly the right height.
Yeah, you just need to find 10 minutes or so, sometime in your day, to get it all sorted out so you know what you're doing and everything else. Right. I've been pretty bad tonight because my wife was using it and it's come dark. So the light is on one side and not the other tonight. And as the evening's gone on, and do it about the same time as you're telling. So if you're telling in the morning, set it up in the morning. If you're telling in the evening, set it up in the evening. But make yourself comfortable. And if you know a bit about techie things, you can give yourself a background. You need a green screen. You can drop, all you need to do is to put a bit of green material behind you with a bit of blue tack. And then you can start putting pictures on and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, right. The laptop can't hack it. It's too old.
Yeah, you can do all those things. You're just uncomfortable physically.
Right. Okay.
And so you're sat there all tensed up because you want to have a go and and then your muscles are all creaking up on you and you're not giving yourself 10 out of 10 before you start.
Right. Grand. Yeah.
Right? That's all you need to do. You're going to be, well, if you're not nervous, you don't care. So you're going to be nervous. You should be nervous.
I always shake myself.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Everybody does that. Your adrenaline's running down the inside of your leg.
Yeah.
That's okay. But you can obviate these things by getting yourself comfortable, and that's the only two things. And Andrew, that's 100% better. And you need to have your device just a little bit higher physically, about the size of a Bible. That's it. That is 100% better. than where you were. And physically, you can get your shoulders out, you can move your arms around a bit and stuff like that. Okay. Just we've all got to learn these things, and we all had to learn them ourselves. Okay. Thank you both for coming. I hope you come next week in a fortnight's time.
Definitely. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Cheers. Okay,
Appreciate
John. This is
Thanks
what
for
I'm
that,
doing,
mate.
mate.
Thanks, Ali, for driving the bus.
Yeah. Thanks, Ali.
you
Thanks
very
very much, mate.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks.
opening
Cheers.
a
Cheers.
bottle of wine. I am.
You're welcome, mate. My friends.
Thank you.
See you there.
See you then.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Cheers. There. See you in a fortnight's time, mate.
Okay, see you, my friends. Okay.